Welcome, Deep Divers. Great to have you with us again for the show that, well, really tries to cut through all the noise. Today, we're diving into something pretty fascinating. It's a philosophy, interrealism, that might just change how you see your place in the world. Seriously, it asks us to rethink, our individual impact, our collective reality, everything. Our guide for this is a text called Excerpts from Interrealism, a philosophy of interconnectedness and responsibility. So, our mission really for you today is to unpack this. What are its core ideas? And crucially, what does it mean for your everyday life? Because this isn't just some abstract idea floating out there. It feels like a call to, well, to see and act differently. Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack interrealism. So, the absolute foundation, the starting point for interrealism is this really powerful conviction: nothing, and I mean nothing, in this world exists separately. Just let that sink in for a moment. It argues that everything, people, society, nature, technology, even the universe, it's all interconnected, woven into a single whole.
That's right. It paints this picture of a single network of reality. And it's not static. It's alive, it breathes, it transforms, it's constantly responding to our thoughts, our actions, even our feelings. And what's key, I think, is that the source presents this not just as a theory, but as a practical philosophy, a guide for living. Yeah, it's about understanding our place within this huge dynamic system. If you think about older philosophies, they often drew these sharp lines, didn't they? Separating spirit from matter, or humans from nature, or individuals from the society around them. But interrealism, it seems to intentionally bridge those gaps. It emphasizes that all these levels, spiritual, material, individual, collective, they're just different expressions, different facets, really, of the same reality. It's about seeing the connections, not the separations. What's fascinating here is how it bridges those historical divides.
Right. And that connection isn't just out there, it brings it right home, doesn't it? It suggests that what happens inside us is mirrored in the world around us. The source gives this really clear example. If someone's living with a lot of anxiety or tension or anger, that energy, it argues, doesn't just stay bottled up inside them. It permeates their relationships, it influences the social vibe,
Yeah.
and it even affects the environment they're in. It's like an energetic broadcast.
Exactly. It seeps outwards.
And the flip side is also true, apparently. When things like love, compassion, responsibility, when they become a conscious part of how we live, interrealism says these qualities don't just change us, they actively transform that whole wider field of reality we're all woven into. It's this idea that our internal state is an active ingredient in the world, which, I mean, that leads to some pretty big ideas about our inner world, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This brings us to a really profound part of interrealism, the sheer power of your inner field. The philosophy basically says that your thoughts, emotions, intentions, it's just as powerful as your visible actions. And sometimes, the text even suggests, maybe more powerful.
Precisely. And the reason why it's so potent, well, it's because that inner field is where everything starts. It's the source from which our deeds, our words, our decisions, they all spring from there. So this naturally makes you ask, okay, what does this mean for how we manage our thoughts, how we cultivate that inner space?
Yeah.
Interrealism argues that when we consciously choose to focus our attention on, say, love and responsibility, we're not just tweaking our personal experience, we're actually helping to shift the collective direction humanity is heading in. That's a pretty deep sense of personal agency, would you say?
Definitely. And tied into this is the importance of the present moment. Interrealism really stresses that now. This moment right here is the only place where meaning is actually created. I mean, think about it. You can't really live or act in the past. That's just memory. And the future. That's possibility, potential. It hasn't happened yet, but now. This is where we can create, where we can connect, where our inner field meets reality.
Absolutely. That present moment is where the magic happens, so to speak. And interestingly, interrealism even finds a place for difficulty within this now. Pain, crisis. They're not seen as punishments. No, they're framed as teachers, like wake-up calls. They force us to maybe change direction or see connections we missed before. So if we link this back to the bigger picture, a crisis can actually show us where we've disconnected, where we've strayed from that balance. And in doing so, it guides us back. It's a kind of course correction.
A course correction, I like that. Okay, so if it's this big interconnected idea, how does it actually play out, in everyday life? The source is clear. Our small actions. They're never just small actions. They matter. It gives that specific example, remember? When I decide to be kind to a stranger, this wave of kindness continues, touching other people without me even knowing it. Okay, it's not just a quick interaction, it's a ripple, a contribution to that whole interconnected web.
Right. And the opposite holds true as well, according to the philosophy. If you let yourself get carried away by anger, by aggression, that also spreads. like an echo, the source says, that eventually comes back to you, maybe in ways you don't immediately link together. Which, I mean, it really pushes you to think, where does my personal responsibility actually end if everything's connected like this?
Yeah, that's a challenging question.
Interrealism's answer seems to be that it doesn't end at our skin, because we're constantly connected to this world we're co-creating, moment by moment. Our responsibility is much wider than we usually think.
Okay, that's a big thought. Let's make it concrete. The source points to technology, right? As a
Mhm.
modern example of all this. And it really is a perfect example for our time, isn't it? Technology can obviously strengthen connections, open up understanding, or it can do the complete opposite. Isolate us, deepen the divides. We see both all the time.
We do. And the deciding factor, according to interrealism, comes down to our intentions.
Yeah.
What are we putting into our use of it? If we approach tech with, say, compassion, cooperation, a genuine search for meaning, then it becomes a bridge. It connects us.
Mm.
But if it's driven by cold power or ego or the desire to divide,
Yeah.
then it becomes destructive, a source of separation. What's so insightful here, I think, is seeing technology as this mirror. It just reflects back our collective and individual intentions. It shows us what energy we're feeding into the network.
A mirror. Yeah. So when you pull it all together, interrealism feels like a challenge to first work on our inner selves and second to really accept responsibility for the whole picture. It's pushing us to stop seeing ourselves as these isolated little units and start seeing ourselves as, I guess, active parts of this huge living network where every thought, every decision, every feeling, it all sends out ripples, echoes.
Exactly. And that's where its practicality really comes through. It's not meant to be just an abstract theory for discussion. It's presented as a way to live, a way to actually cultivate more meaning, more harmony, maybe more love in the world through conscious engagement.
Right. So changing the world isn't about waiting for some massive event or leader. The source says the transformation starts right here, inside us, with our inner field. It's in our thoughts, our feelings, those everyday choices we make. It grounds the whole thing in the personal.
And with every one of those seemingly small steps, those conscious choices, we contribute. We contribute to transforming the whole system bit by bit. It's an invocation to see our own power, really, within this interconnected reality.
And that seems like a good place to wrap up our deep dive for today. We've journeyed through interrealism, this really compelling framework for seeing just how deeply connected we are to everything. And it highlights this incredible power, maybe responsibility that comes from our inner world and our daily choices. It's definitely challenging, but I also find it kind of hopeful, this call to conscious living.
It is. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Given everything we've discussed, this idea that every thought, every decision, every feeling sends out an echo, what kind of echo are you consciously choosing to send out into the world today? Especially now, knowing its ripple effect, what might that choice say about your connection to it all? Something to mull over.
That is a fantastic question to reflect on. Thank you for taking us through that, and thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope you continue exploring these connections in your own way. Maybe see that tapestry of existence with slightly different eyes. Until next time, keep digging deeper.